Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital. I'm Zainab Bala.
A very good morning to you as well. I'm Dashan Husseina Usman, and it is the last day of the week. Super excited.
Yeah,
A lot
truly.
of people are.
I can't wait for the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. So, so far so good. The country is peaceful, somewhat peaceful. Despite everything going on, despite the fuel scarcity, despite this insecurity in some parts of, some states, but it's kind of peaceful.
Well, I don't like the fill queues, but
yeah, exactly.
something.
The government has actually promised that something will happen towards the end of the month, but I can't wait till before then because, lots of black markets out there, and you don't know what they mix their own petrol with. It's really crazy. One needs to be careful. Remember when we had the incident of, people's cars getting spoiled because of bad fuel?
Yeah.
So we wouldn't want that to happen.
Absolutely. Well, our headlines for you this morning. Police officer gets promotion, 1 million for rejecting $200,000 bribe.
Kidnapping. Police beef up security on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway.
2023, Buhari Tinubu's alliance will collapse. This is according to Atiku.
Okay, all right, let's take a look at the details. The Police Service Commission has approved a special promotion for Daniel Itse Ama, the police officer who rejected a $200,000 bribe from armed robbers. Ama, the divisional police officer in charge of Nasarawa Division in Kano State, was on the rank of Superintendent of Police before he was promoted to the rank of Chief Superintendent of Police 2 months ago. But the acting chairman of the PSC, Justice Clara Ogumbi, retired at an event organized in Ama's honor in Abuja on Thursday, said the police officer deserved more than that to encourage other police officers in the country. The PSC boss announced that the police officer be promoted from CSP rank to the Assistant Commissioner of Police and be given the sum of 1 million naira. Different bodies had also recognized the sincerity of the police and his dedication to the job with various awards.
Now, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has described the ruling All Progressive Congress as an alliance of convenience that will collapse after defeat in the coming presidential election in 2023. The former vice president stated this shortly after the inauguration of the youth wing of PDP's Presidential Campaign Council in Abuja on Thursday. Atiku said the PDP, being the oldest political party in Nigeria, has over the years gained enough experience and grounds to sustain Nigeria's democracy. Atiku, however, urged the newly inaugurated National Youth Campaign Council, drawn from the 6 geopolitical zones, to take his message of hope down to the nooks and crannies of their wards and inspire them his agenda of resetting and rescue Nigeria.
The police commands in Oyo and Ogun states have beefed up security on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway following a resurgence of criminal activities along the route. There have been recurring reports of kidnapping and other security challenges along the 131-kilometer road. The spokesman of the police in Oyo State, SP Adewale Osifesho, said in a statement on Thursday that the Commissioner of Police Adebowale Williams had vowed to rid the area of undesirable criminal elements. Williams, in the company of his Ogun State counterpart, Lanre Bankole, on Thursday undertook a strategic assessment patrol along the highway and deployed personnel and assets to forestall further attacks. He said both commands have also restructured the security apparatus around the Lagos-Shagam Shakbade Onigari axis. And with this, we wrap up the highlights at this hour.
Now let's take a look at a trending story. Popular Ghanaian movie star Juliet Ibrahim has lamented the high cost of living in Ghana, according to the delectable actress. She fills her car weekly with 1,400 cedis, an equivalent of about 72,000 naira. Now, in a series of tweets via her verified page, the thespian lamented the high cost of living in Ghana as she officially named the nation to be the most expensive country in West Africa. Now, currently, $100 is about 1,400 cedis, even in the USA, to fill the same type of car, and would never cost that much. Yet, we are all going through the same economic crisis. Now, Juliet Ibrahim further queried if any Nigerians spend such an amount of fuel a week on their car. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, well, it depends on how your car runs.
Well,
If
for
you're
mine,
the type
it
who
doesn't
buys,
consume
yeah, well,
that much.
if you're the type who buys fuel every week or every 5 days, then definitely you would spend that amount. Especially if it's a black market. But besides that, we're actually quite fortunate Nigerians, to still have 175 naira per liter. But there's still rumors of plans of increase. I don't
So
know
about 400. That's
yes, over 175. Over. I don't know how
I
much.
just don't want it to get to that level, please.
But what about isn't it better, some people actually seem to think it's better for the fuel to be available than to be scarce and still the same amount.
Absolutely. Well, my car doesn't consume that much, and lately I've been doing black markets, and it's been really very crazy.
And how much? How much per liter?
I think it's about 200.
250.
Oh wow!
Oh,
wow.
yeah.
Well, it looks like I've got mine.
Yes.
But 200 now.
I actually have been doing 250. Normally it would cost my car 10,000 naira to fill it up, but at this amount it has to be like almost 20,000.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot of money, I must say.
Exactly. So, yes, so with that, we'll move on to more stories at the moment. President Muhammadu Buhari says there's no going back on the redesign of the Naira, which is expected to take effect in December. He spoke on the sidelines of his meeting in London with the King of England, Charles III, at the Buckingham Palace on Wednesday, where the two leaders spoke about deepening ties and improving trade relations between their countries. Kehinde Amodu reports.
This meeting with the King of England should have happened some time ago in Kigali, but it was postponed. There's no better time to have it than now, with President Buhari in London on a 2-week medical break. The first thing the president will do is humorously reassure Nigerians that he is well.
I'm very healthy.
The meeting with the British monarch centers around improving trade relations between Nigeria and the UK, especially now that Britain needs its strategic partners around it more than ever.
Well, it's mostly economic. Let the Nigerian businessmen and the British one continue to work together and let them, make sure that the relationship is improved instead of allowing it to go down. Nigeria has a large market. You know Nigerians.
The UK has come out of the European Union. And so its old partners like Nigeria and other Commonwealth countries are going to be ever more important to it. And so, that trust that exists between the two of them, will also help to propel that increased business relationship between the two countries.
Back to issues at home, the president is insistent that there will be no going back on the redesign of the Naira.
There will be people a lot of money, but time has been given from October to December, 3 months. Is enough, whatever money you have, to get it changed through a legal system. So I don't know why people are complaining about it. There's no going back.
With elections barely 4 months away, President Buhari says he will not manipulate the polls to anyone's favor.
So Nigerians should vote for whoever they like from whichever party. Nobody will be allowed to mobilize resources and thugs to intimidate people in any constituency. That's what I want to go down into Nigerian history for.
But the president is clear that his party, the All Progressives Congress, will win next year's elections because of the antecedents and achievements of APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu. Tracking the president in London, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission in the Federal Capital Territory has scheduled 2 weeks for the display of the preliminary voters' register to entertain claims and objections ahead of the 2023 polls. The Commission also calls on registrants who successfully completed their registrations for the voters' card to take advantage of the ongoing collection of the available PVCs as notified by text messages. Trust TV's Aisha Salu reports.
With campaigns ongoing, the Independent National Electoral Commission in the FCT, which will be conducting only the presidential and National Assembly elections, also says it will be monitoring campaigns and urged political parties to focus on issue-based campaigns to ensure a smooth process.
No violent use of any physical force during political campaigns. No political campaign to be conducted inside the premises of religious organizations. That includes the mosque, inside the church, and inside the shrine. No political campaign will be based on ethnicity or religious persuasions, and that we should avoid free speech. Hate speech.
On the state of preparedness for the conduct of the 2023 election, the FCT INEC said preliminary voter register is to be released from the 12th through 25th November 2022.
INEC is going to display, the voters register. This is for the purpose of all our citizens who have registered, to partake in this election, to go through in their respective localities and see the registers, so that if they have any claims and objections, they can raise them. We start by 9 a.m. in the morning and close 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it is going to be at the registration areas or what level.
The FCT INEC says introduction of short messaging services for PVC collection is to lessen the burden of voters and to reach every locality to ensure appropriate distributions, as there will be no collections by proxies.
We have devised new means, a departure from the previous election, whereby all those who partook in this election, most of them have been identified and being notified through SMS to come to so and so places and collect their PVCs.
The SMS was sent to those whose cards are available with us now. And by the time we receive the next batch of the PVC, they also send messages to those new cards that will come later.
Maximum collection of voters' cards and turnout on election day are crucial in determining the democratic outcomes of elections. The Commission hopes the country's democracy does not continue to suffer from the double apathy of voters' card collection and low turnout on election day. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Well, moving away from elections, Inspector General of Police Usman Baba has warned that checkmating violence in the 2023 elections will largely depend on the way regional and state security outfits are stopped from interfering with political activities. The Inspector General spoke on Thursday on the state of security in the country and preparations of the Nigerian police for the 2023 elections, reacting to the recent incident in Borno State when the convoy of the People's Democratic Party was allegedly attacked. Baba clarified that the police public relations officer in the state may not have had the full picture of the incident in his initial report. Kendi Amodu reports.
Campaigns in some parts of the country have already been marred by violence, while there are allegations that some state and regional security outfits are being used to stifle opposition. But the Inspector General of Police says it takes two to tango, hinting at the fact that the violence can be traced to politicians. Acknowledging that the 64 security outfits that have been created by different state governors for different purposes have attained some success in tackling crime, the police topman is warning that they should not be used for politicking.
The crime prevention and space is so wide that we are encouraging everybody to come in, and that is why we said policing is something that requires the contribution of everybody. So while these outfits have been created to checkmate crime and criminality, we have also told them that they are not to be used for politicking or to be used for political reasons.
There have been attacks at political campaigns in Kaduna, Rivers State, and recently Borno State, in which the convoy of the People's Democratic Party was allegedly attacked.
The assessment of the of the state public relations officer might not be completely conclusive, as he reacted to what had happened very quickly. And I think we have a total team that will assess what had actually happened and the extent of what had happened based on various presentation that is coming out from members of the public, from the APC, from the PDP, from the police. So you need to have more information.
Speaking on travel advisories given by foreign missions on the security situation in the country, the Inspector General of Police says the warnings were not dismissed as mere alarm.
The government has not dismissed what had happened because they have also informed us of what they foresee as threats. And we, on our part, also looked at what they put as threat as something that has been with us, and efforts are being made daily.
The welfare of the police as regards to accommodation and kitting have been covered extensively during this discourse. And it seems some of the issues thrown up may not be readily solved because of the budget envelope given to the force on an annual basis. The funds, according to the Inspector General of Police, are simply inadequate to cover the quantum of expenses that go into running the Nigeria Police Force. From State House, Abuja, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
The Independent National Electoral Commission in the Federal Capital Territory has scheduled 2 weeks for the display of the preliminary voters register to entertain claims and objections ahead of the 2023 polls. Oh, forgive me. Now, the adage that the woman's place in the home or kitchen seems to be fading away as girls are gradually getting more involved in male-dominated professions in Nigeria. In this special report, some female apprentices share their experiences with Nafisa Bello on why they opted to be in a male-dominated field.
In Nigeria, the art of tailoring, hairdressing, and catering are among the handworks traditionally associated with the female folks, but the trend seems to be changing. A visit to some mechanic workshops in Benin City, the Edo State capital, showed these girls exhibiting the zeal to try their hands on something different from the aforementioned jobs, leading them to apprenticeship in motor mechanic, a career they say they are sure to excel in.
It was part of our subject when I was in secondary school, auto mechanic work. So they taught us more. We were allowed to learn different skills of our choices. So I picked auto mechanic work to learn. So with that I was exposed to the work. So
I love this work. I passionately love it. I don't feel intimidated. I don't feel embarrassed. I'm just okay. I'm fine. Even putting on the overall, I'm okay with it. Even if you tell me to wear the overall home, I would gladly do it. Why? Because that's my dream. So I just thought of doing something different aside those other things like hairdressing and tailoring, because that was the most common thing among females and I don't like it. So my grandmom, she thought of something. She now said, what's up if I just go into something like cars, where you use the computers to check cars. So that was enough for myself. I don't know more things. I don't know many things. I'm still learning. So that's maybe once I'm truly learning, I'll be able to stand outside because I know that I have something. I can do something. I have something else there.
At one of the workshops, it was observed that most of the apprentices, male and female, are being trained freely. The owner of the workshop, Osaro Ogunwe, explained what it takes to make sure they take the job seriously.
So when you come, if you want to learn as a male or female, when you are learning, process of learning, you don't have to have a girlfriend. So enable you to learn the work properly. So that is how we learn our work.
For a better and developed society and to change the narrative, it is expected that women are allowed to try their hands on any profession of their choice instead of being stereotyped on particular ones. Nafisa Bello, Trust TV News, Benin.
Well, have you heard the adage that says it's a woman's world as well?
That's exciting, you know.
So,
it just gives me great pleasure to talk about
yes,
women.
another one that says, you know, whatever a man can do, a woman can do 100 times better.
I don't know about that one. I don't know.
All right, I think we've gotten to the stage where it's no longer it's a man's job or it's a man's, you know,
hustling. Let's hustle together.
It's hustling, as long as when it comes to money, you know, every gender, exactly. So with this, we'll take a quick breather, and when we return, it'll be time for the newspaper review. Just stick around.
That's great.
Rewa kamar ta saka mai wuya ya zo ya haɗe su kap.
This is not the first time it's happening. It has happened before, but this time around, like I said, the intensity and the volume of water that has come has done more damage than even the past.
No food, no clothing, and no shelter.
Until tomorrow, every year, there is a budget line for Dasin Hausa Dam. Every year, because I've seen it and I know it. But till tomorrow, nothing has been done about it.
So the Nigerian factor certainly is one of the reasons why communities like this have to suffer.
But in a situation where you find that a look at this,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, welcome back and thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining us, you're still watching Daybreak on Trust Television right here in the Federal Capital Territory. And it's time for us to review the papers. We'll start by taking a look at Daily Trust newspaper. And we have the lead story that talks about attacks. INEC holds emergency meeting today, records 47 incidents in 33 months. Hoodlums torch Ogun Osun officers. IGP probes attack on Atiku's convoy. From the top of the page there, dollar crashes to 730 naira at parallel markets. Details of that can be found on page 23. 2023, vote whomever you like, Buhari tells Nigerians. You can find more on that story on page 4. There's a pictorial there of the Yobe State Governor, Honorable Maimala Buni, where he presented the 2023 Appropriation and Finance Bills to the State House of Assembly yesterday in Damaturu. And there are more stories on Daily Trust. Contempt. Court sets aside EFCC chairman's conviction. Media holds roundtable on industry regulation, and also Elon Musk takeover. We're closely monitoring Twitter, says federal government. And these are some of the stories they can find on Daily Trust newspaper today.
Okay, let's take a look at some more stories on the Guardian newspaper. 65,699 PVCs burnt. Fear heightens after twin attacks on INEC officers. And you can see some of the riders there. INEC summons emergency security meeting today. Ogun CP, INEC officers need increased security. PDP, APC condemn attacks. Gaya, insecurity won't affect election census. Elections can't hold amid insecurity. Secure Nigeria now, Bishop tells federal government. I would say some more riders. PDP restates commitment to violence-free poll. despite attack on its rallies. Election results cannot be influenced with beavers, INEC reiterates. And then you'd see a picture there with a story lead there that says, with trillions lost to failed and collapsed buildings, stakeholders tread slippery roads to recovery. That story is on pages 4 and 5. UN, terrorism intensifying across Africa, exploiting instability, conflict. And you'd find other stories right at the top on page 3. Again, aviation workers fault concession, planned demolition of FAN, NEMA offices. And on page 24, you see the story about Uzodinma urging editors to be objective in reporting. You'd find other stories as well, like this one about Kogi targets 591 billion yearly IGR, deepens ties with China. And the MPC is warning Nigerians against migrating for census. That story is on page 9 on The Guardian.
All right, with that, we'll move on to more stories or more papers. Next is The Nation newspaper. How Tinubu will actualize plans on economy security. That's the lead story on The Nation newspaper. And we have a writer that says, technocrats explain how APC candidates will deliver on promises. And you can actually find highlights of some of these if you read the paper. We also have US, UK terror alerts. Those arrested will be prosecuted, says IG. Atiku, optimistic of truce with the G5 governors. We also have, just below the nameplates there, Kogi government targets 591 billion naira annual IGR. Security step up on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. On the footnote there, we have $350 or $1 million needed for Nigeria Air's takeoff, says minister. At the top of the page, we have Oni Adeyeye Ogunwusi and his woman, and Tinubu, I will complete Ajaokuta rolling mill. Arsonists burn 65,000 PVCs in Ogun INEC office. And these are some of the stories on The Nation newspaper.
On the Punch newspaper this morning, Forex crisis. Traders lose as Naira rebounds to 720 to a dollar. And the writers there say currency jumps from 910 to 720 in 6 days. How EFCC clamped down, market sentiment, reverse Naira slide. And BDC operators resist Naira rebound, hold back greenback purchase. And you see a very disturbing pictorial there that shows you 11 die as Kogi protesters barricade road with tanker. You'd also see other interesting stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. Arson. INEC meets security chiefs today. Farmers kick as CBN halts Anko Barrow's program. And then oil theft suspects reject extradition, sue federal government. You'd find other stories as well. Lagos Port Harcourt likely to witness weather catastrophe. Woman plunges into lagoon after argument with fiance. That's a very interesting story and sad at the same time. Now, Lagosian bombs wife to death. Those are quite very sad stories coming from Lagos. But we're going to take a look at that story a bit later when we're reviewing our papers this morning. These are the major stories on the Punch.
All right, next is Nigerian Tribune. We have the lead story that talks about, the burning of 65,699 PVCs in Ogun State INEC office. We also have more stories here. 20 feared killed as petrol-laden truck explodes in Kogi. 2023, editors demand issue-based campaign. Media to hold roundtable on industry regulation. We have Kogi targets 591 billion annual IGR. We also have Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, police in Oyo, Ogun, re-strategize, mobilize against kidnappers, bandits, use OPC to flush out criminals from bushes along highways, Gani Adams charges Oyo, Ogun, Lagos governors. We also have on economy, top times ahead, vote capable candidates, says Shatima. At the top of the page, we have Naira strengthens, surprises speculators, and Atiku's campaign faults Tinubu's camp on a $460,000 forfeiture to U.S. As Keyamo defends Tinubu, Wike Atiku to meet soon, says Dele Momodu, and police arrest 12 over alleged attack on supporters of Atiku in Rivers State. And these are some of the stories on Nigerian Tribune.
And on the Leadership newspaper this Friday, loan sharks persist with cruel recovery practices. That story is on page 4, and you see a breakdown of excesses of online loan sharks in Nigeria. That's a very interesting data breakdown there. And if you'd like to get more details, grab a copy of Leadership Friday. You'd see other stories as well. CSP AMA promoted for rejecting robbers $200,000 bribe. TET Fund renews clamor for 3% education tax rate. And then media holds roundtable on industry regulation. And on the political desk, 2023 PMB has anointed Tinubu. It shall come to pass, Adamu boasts. 2023 Nigerian youth will speak through their votes. This is according to the YPP. And then the story that's almost on every paper this morning. 65,000 voters may be disenfranchised as fire guts Ogun, Osun, INEC offices. These are the major stories on the Leadership.
And finally, on Business Day, we have the lead story that says oil royalty boosts eases states cash flow. We also have livestock farmers recount food losses. Oil thieves drill into Dubry's pipeline in new dimension to crude theft. And at the top of the page there we have employers adopt Ideal's work model to stem Japa wave. And these are some of the stories on a Business Day this morning. All right, with that, we'll take a look at an analysis of the papers. And right here in the studio, we already have our guest, and he's Nuruddin Abdullah, editor, 21st Century Chronicles, joining us for an in-depth analysis of some of the stories. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
All right, so let's begin with Daily Trust newspaper. Now, the lead story talks about INEC holding emergency meeting today, and we've seen on other papers, you know, that some INEC offices in Ogun and other states, you know, were actually burnt down and over 65,000 PVCs destroyed. What's your take on this?
I think there is serious concern, particularly with the resurgence of arson on the Commission's offices. You know, late last year, you know, particularly in the southeast, tens of INEC offices were burned down, you know, by unknown gunmen. Some say IPOP, you know, and likewise some federal facilities. They include the military formations, police offices, and other paramilitary organizations. I saw a paper saying about 65,000 may not be able to exercise their civic responsibility. I think I know what you need to do. They need to reprint the data of those Nigerians there.
Mm-hmm.
So what you just need to do is reprint of those cards.
But is there enough time before the election
Yeah, sure.
for them to do that?
65, yeah, they can do it. I don't think they should be disenfranchised because of the arson. They can do it. They have 5 months or more. Or let's say in November, December, January, February, 3 months plus, they can do it. That is one. And going forward, I think INEC need to review its security architecture, particularly around its facilities across the country, particularly too where they keep sensitive materials. PVC now is equally a sensitive material, bearing in mind the desperation of some of the politicians. You know, they are, because of the beavers and all the technologies deployed by INEC to avert vote buying, you know, what are they doing now? They are busy inducing some gullible Nigerians and collecting the PVCs. So I think maybe what INEC should do is to put more security around their facilities, particularly those facilities that are where sensitive materials like the PVCs are being warehoused. Because without PVC, you won't vote. The era of incidence form is gone. That's what the INEC is telling us. So I think maybe they will quickly print with they have their security contractors. The mint is here in Abuja, Lagos. Maybe they can quickly gather those materials from them. And again, Nigerians need to be more serious with the election. Why are those 65,000 PVCs doing there in Ogun? They should be in the hands of the public. So you look at almost all the states, the INEC officials are crying, come for your PVCs. So I hope that this does not, you know, predict the type of election apathy that we may witness in 2023. There are millions of PVCs lying fallow at various INEC offices across the country. You understand? So that is it. So I think maybe more Nigerians need to be more serious. They should have faith on the system, because if you look at the figures, you know, it seems that this election will record the highest apathy compared to those in the past. You understand?
Absolutely. Well, you know, a lot of people have also described this as kind of a deliberate attempt, you know, to mar the 2023 election. That is why we're seeing, you know, INEC offices being touched down in recent times. Do you think this is going to be a problem as we look forward to the 2023 elections?
I don't think so. It's mere coincidence. You can't stop election by just attacking some selected facilities belonging to the commission. INEC has zonal offices. They have at least state offices in 6 states plus Abuja. They equally have offices in all the 74 local governments. So let's say even if you take 20% of it, it won't stop anything. You understand? But again, INEC should look forward. Politicians can be desperate, particularly now that INEC is tightening all the gaps the politicians take advantage of during election. Now it has to be beavers, you know, there won't be incidents form, there won't be underage voting, you know, all these things. So as INEC is planning, the politicians are equally re-strategizing. How are we going to beat this system? So they should be very conscious of that as they plan towards this election. And Nigerians on their own part too. There is no need for you to just 3 months to the election to leave your PVC with the INEC. You should get it. It's your right. You can make or mar your future with it.
Okay, so share your thoughts on, you know, because on one of the writers, it says IGP probes attack on Atiku's convoy. Can you share your thoughts on that?
Okay, so there was indeed an attack on the opposition candidate in Borno. You know, when the attack took place, I think we were the first to report it, if I remember correctly. There was a denial, as usual. The spokesperson of the Nigerian police in Borno State, you know, he hurriedly arranged a press conference. You know, he was incoherently reading from a hurriedly prepared speech, you can see, saying that there was no attack. Whereas in the social media age, the Atiku people, you know, they flooded the internet with video footages of the vehicles vandalized. And medical workers in Borno have confirmed that they received such a number of people who were attacked, who were wounded during the. It's a good thing, but I think again, the security agencies need to assure Nigerians. We have 18 presidential candidates. They should be allowed to campaign in all parts of the country, you understand? Allow the voters to decide. You understand? Because what happens there is portends a very bad omen for the political ecosystem as we move towards February 28th. Why is it so? If you attack an opposition candidate in a place you believe that your candidate has an upper hand, your candidate will equally go to other parts of the country where the opposition candidate has an upper hand. What if there is retaliation? So it means, we are trying to create an anarchy. So the police should use those arrested as an example. They say that they have arrested some people in Rivers for attacking some, I think, a faction of the PDP in Rivers. The police should be walk and seem to be walking impartially.
I think one person was actually, arrested, a 32-year-old, with a stone as evidence.
In that of Borno, you see the vehicles. They were vandalized, and they were captured on videos. And you don't need a clairvoyant to tell you who those hoodlums were working for. So I think maybe the IGP should match his word with action by ensuring that those, first and foremost, by providing adequate securities when these politicians go on campaign. And secondly, if there is any breach, his men should be impartial and arrest the perpetrators. It happened in Kaduna, I remember. It happened in Rivers, and now it is happening in Borno. So who knows where it happened next? We have 36 states in Abuja, and we have 3 months to campaign. 90 days, 90 solid days to campaign. So when you start this anarchy and what have you, it is not good for the politicians. It is not good for the gullible Nigerians who are being used. None of the politicians goes to those campaigns with their children, grandchildren, or even their wives. Most of them are abroad. They are watching it on TV.
All right, let's take a look at a few pages, on Daily Trust. The opinion page talks about, that's on page 15, it talks about how not to talk with Africa about climate change. There's been a lot of backlash on that.
That's by the president, right?
It's actually just an opinion piece. All right, so on letters to the editor, it talks about insecurity, and it says, let's borrow from Iraq's experience. And then let's go to city and crime on page 20 and 21. And we actually saw the story of a woman who jumped into a Lagos lagoon after she had a fight with her fiancé. We also have a story on a dad arrested after reporting his daughter missing. We have a herbalist, hotelier, others arrested over a missing Ogun State woman, and so many, witchcraft suspects killed in Kebbi State as well, and so many, stories on city and crime. But, let's talk about the woman who jumped into a lagoon and, committed suicide after she had a fight with
Really? Oh, I don't know. Maybe she's depressed or whatever. But is it worth it to die because of a fiancé? I think maybe individuals, at individual level, we should take mental health very seriously. Many people are depressed without even knowing. Because is it worth it? You move on. 6 months, you forget about the man. Because he'll continue with his life now. You understand? Maybe he's cheating, all this. Don't carry all these things. I think women should be more serious about this relationship thing. I don't know. I'm not a relationship expert, but I don't think, I may be wrong, but I don't think that it is worth it. To die because of one fiancé or... No. It has to do with the mental health. People should take it very seriously.
Sure.
She should be advised, leave that man. 3 months, yeah, you may be heartbroken or whatever, but time heals.
Absolutely.
True.
So unfortunately, it's a very sad. So maybe, you know, women, you need to start that advocacy very well.
And it seems like the lagoon in Lagos seemed to be a very great spot to just jump into. And I think at some point there were rules about allowing people actually come close to the lagoon, because before you know it, people just jump in and then.
Yeah, I think as of was it last year when I saw the figures about suicide rates, Lagos was leading. And the Bermuda Triangle is that lagoon, that Third Mainland Bridge angle. Yep. And I think Lagos State, they have a task force there. The last time somebody jumped, you know, the task force, I don't know whether he died or, you know, there was a man, he just left his car and jumped. So the task force immediately dived with him, and there was a speedboat around, cruising around. Because, you know, apart from mental health, the economy. Yeah, particularly in that one, the economy. And, you know, but I didn't read the details of I don't have the details of the story, because it may be, in one case, maybe it may have to do with the economy. If a fiancé, maybe there is a date, maybe the man is shifting the dates, or she needed an iPhone 13 or iPhone 14.
Okay.
She needed, you know, all these things, and the man could not provide, and, you know, she just concluded that he is not serious, you know, after wasting her time. You know, all these things, you know, they are tied to the economy.
All right, talking about the economy, now the dollar has actually crashed, you know, at the parallel market to 730. What do you think about this?
So it's a cause for celebration, right? It's just now 740. Okay, we hope that it will come down. Yeah, but all the economic variables are not indicating such. But we hope that this will continue. But Mike, we're heading towards an election, a very competitive election. Competitive, unprecedentedly competitive. Because, you know, yeah, we have 18 candidates, but 2 candidates stand out, and they are deploying all their known and unknown arsenals, spiritual, monetary, you know, and because in Hausa we call it padan the end, because their last fight, the Tinubu Atiku thing, whoever wins, whoever doesn't win, you know, I don't think in the next 4 years will be irrelevant again because of age, because of the political situation and whatever. So they are, you know, they are not leaving any stone unturned to ensure that they grab. So there will be serious monetization of the polity. You know, they don't deal with naira; they deal with dollar. Like I said the other time, one bundle. It's almost okay with this now. A bundle of $100 dollars, you know, is now 7.4 million. Just a bundle.
It's still huge.
We hope they will do concrete. They will put concrete measures to avert the slide of the currency. You understand? We hope they will do that. It's a very good development, because at the time it was almost 895 or even 900.
900. But do you think the clampdown by the EFCC was an initiator, you know, to this new development?
Yes, but what I'm saying here is the clampdown. They cannot be climbing on this one every day. We need concrete economic measures to arrest this downward slide. You understand? Arresting the BDCs and whatever is not enough. There is no dollar now. Just, I think some few days ago, I was discussing with a friend who works with a foreign organization. He said that they can't even access dollar from their own official account of the company's account. He said there was a time 2 of his colleagues were traveling out. So it took them 8 days to access money from their account in a commercial bank. So they have to bring all manner of things. So something after the visa, the accommodation, the tickets, and whatever. They have to even bring their letter of appointment. So it took them 8 days. So that is it. So, you know, you shouldn't use a gun who major to arrest, because this is about the economy. It's about look at other, just look at things we don't produce, right? So everything that comes in, just last week I was discussing with a friend. He sells perfumes and whatever, and this incense. Told him, I asked of one. He said no, he couldn't bring it again, because he said if he brings it now, nobody will buy it because of the exchange regime. So it's a reality. Arresting BDCs will not give you a lasting solution. So we should look at more at realistic, long-lasting economic solutions. The monetary policy managers, you know, they should sit up and do this thing. She should go beyond arrest. She should go beyond arrest.
Well, I'd like you to comment on this quickly before we wrap up the newspaper review. We're seeing that the federal government is halting the Uncle Borrows program, and a lot of farmers have lost to the floods. Like, for instance, we did a documentary in Taraba where we spoke to some farmers, and a lot of them actually collected loans to, you know, put into their farms, and the flood came and washed away everything. And now they were hoping that there's going to be some form of relief, and they're just helpless at the moment.
So I saw it. I think it was the front page of one of the newspapers you mentioned. According to MFLA, I think as of March or April, they said that they have released about 1.2 or 3 trillion on Uncle Borrows. You know. Uncle Borrows, you know, has 15 commodities. You know, rice as one of the major ones. So I don't think that the CBN will just disburse 1.something trillion without insurance. The money needs to be insured so that the farmers, in the time of disaster like this, maybe fire outbreaks, maybe flooding, or it may be even locust attack, so that they shouldn't just lose their investment. I think there should be, the money should be insured. They disburse this money through refund, for instance. When you're talking about the rice commodity, you know, there is refund. So I don't think they are just sharing the money anyhow. And maybe it's one of the realistic economic policies. According to MFLA, he said that Uncle Borrows, all these NISAL, you know, they share all manner of money during the COVID. He said we are responsible for the skyrocketing inflation that we have. People have so much money, and you know how the thing was done. They're like the NISAR, something, they will say that, okay, you have to bring a business idea, whatever. They do it in business centers. They will register the company there. They will give you the proposal. They will just send them, okay, is it a Jazena? Okay, this one is a Hussein Dacha, whatever. And they submit. You part with some percentages. And before you know it, the money will just land into your account. And you know, as ladies normally do, they'll just go to the boutique, you know, and do the shopping that they have been wanting to do. So you understand? So it wasn't, the money was not being channeled into production. Some were getting second wives. Some were doing lepe in Hausa, you know, that man is a bachelor, he has been waiting to have some money to. So that was it. So much trillions, people say, without any productivity. MFLA, according to me, said that was responsible for the crash of the value of the naira and the skyrocketing inflation. So maybe it's one of the measures the central bank is taking, you know, to erase the inflation rate, as well as even the value of the naira. But at the same time, you know, they should have a safety valve for farmers who they gave money, and you know the flood this year was devastating. Even though there will be a lot of court cases.
All right. Would have actually loved for you to talk about the media, you know, roundtable holding on industry regulations, because on Nigerian Tribune it says editors demand issue-based campaign. Would have loved you to shed more light, but can you do that in a few seconds?
Yeah, media play a very critical role, particularly in times like this. You know, we are going into election. So we set the agenda. We should give space to civic engagement. We should de-emphasize violence, fake news, and things that we believe. You know, it is not everything that we publish. Things that we believe will not help our democratic process. So that is it. I think when we do that, you know, we control the space. When they come, you know, they will bring all manner of things. Mr. Hussein, Hussein, it's an X, this, X, that, okay. Back it up. Even Tango, even advert, you have to file the indemnity form. You understand? If not, they will use you. Yeah, they have money to cause all manner of disaffection, anarchy, you know, and what have you. But when we insist that all the news that will go into the newspapers, the airwaves and what have you, are directly or indirectly will contribute to the democratic process, we should go for it. Then we de-emphasize otherwise. So with that, you know, will contribute, the media play a critical role, particularly in democracy. So.
All right, thank you so much for joining us for an analysis of the stories on the papers today. All right, that was Nuruddin Abdullah, editor of 21st Century Chronicles, as our guest on the newspaper review this morning. We'll take a quick break, and when we return at the top of the hour, the show continues.
But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
The road leading up to the Lokoja Bridge from Abuja, and as you can see, tankers carrying fuel, trucks carrying livestock, perishables, and commuters trying to make their way from point A to point B have all been slowed down as a result of the flooding going on in Lokoja.
As I tell you, so my house is inside water like this.
This is my house. This green zip is my house.
We have no option than to come here and look for what we chop.
This water have really spoiled many things. Even as I'm talking to you, I'm not in my own house.
I want to encourage them and assure them that their governor, the governor they elected, had come to see them, and government officials have been going there to see them. They are not in this alone. We are with them.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, welcome back. If you are just joining us, it's 8 a.m. here in the capital city. I am Zainab Bala.
Welcome, and it's still Daybreak on Trust TV. I'm Darshan Husseina Usman. Let's move on to the highlights at this hour.
Police officer gets promotion, $1 million for ejecting $200,000 bribe.
Kidnapping, police beef up security on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway.
2023, Buhari, Tinubu's alliance would collapse. Atiku. The news in detail now. The Police Service Commission has approved a special promotion for Daniel Ise Ama, the police officer who rejected a $200,000 bribe from armed robbers. Ama, the divisional police officer in charge of Nasarawa Division in Kano State, was on the rank of Superintendent of Police before he was promoted to the rank of Chief Superintendent of Police 2 months ago. But the acting chairman of the PSC, Justice Clara Ogumbi, at an event organized in Ama's honor in Abuja on Thursday, said the police officer deserved more than that to encourage other police officers in the country. The PSC boss announced that the police officer be promoted from the CSP rank to the Assistant Commissioner of Police and be given the sum of 1 million naira. Different bodies had also recognized the sincerity of the officer and his dedication to the job with various awards.
Away from that story, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, has described the ruling All Progressives Congress as an alliance of convenience that will collapse after defeat in the coming presidential election in 2023. The former vice president stated this shortly after the inauguration of the youth wing of PDP's Presidential Campaign Council in Abuja on Thursday. Atiku said the PDP, being the oldest political party in Nigeria, has over the years gained enough experience and grounds to sustain Nigeria's democracy. Atiku, however, urged the newly inaugurated National Youth Campaign Council, drawn from the 6 geopolitical zones, to take his message of hope down to the nooks and crannies of the awards and inspire in them his agenda of resetting and rescuing Nigeria.
Now, the police commands in Oyo and Ogun states have beefed up security on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway following a resurgence of criminal activities along the route. There have been recurring reports of kidnapping and other security challenges along the 131-kilometer road. The spokesman of the police in Oyo State, SP Adewale Osifeso, said in a statement on Thursday that the Commissioner of Police, Adebowale Williams, had vowed to rid the area of undesirable criminal elements. Williams, in the company of his Ogun State counterpart, Larry Bankole, on Thursday, undertook a strategic assessment patrol along the highway and deployed personnel and assets to forestall further attacks. He said both commands have also restructured the security apparatus around the Lagos-Shagamu-Sakpadi-Onigari axis.
All right, with that, we wrap up the highlights at this hour and move on to more stories. Inspector General of Police Usman Baba has warned that checkmating violence in the 2023 elections will largely depend on the way regional and state security outfits are stopped from interfering with political activities. The Inspector General spoke on Thursday on the state of security in the country and preparations of the Nigerian police for the 2023 elections. Reacting to the recent incident in Borno State when the convoy of the People's Democratic Party was allegedly attacked, Baba clarified that the police public relations officer in the state may not have had the full picture of the incident in his initial report. Kende Amodu has details.
Campaigns in some parts of the country have already been marred by violence, while there are allegations that some state and regional security outfits are being used to stifle opposition. But the Inspector General of Police says it takes two to tango, hinting at the fact that the violence can be traced to politicians. Acknowledging that the 64 security outfits that have been created by different state governors for different purposes have attained some success in tackling crime, the police topman is warning that they should not be used for politicking.
The crime prevention and space is so wide that we are encouraging everybody to come in, and that is why we said policing is something that requires the contribution of everybody. So while these outfits have been created to checkmate crime and criminality, we have also told them that they are not to be used for politicking or to be used for political reasons.
There have been attacks at political campaigns in Kaduna, Rivers State, and recently Borno State, in which the convoy of the People's Democratic Party was allegedly attacked.
The assessment of the of the state public relations officer might not be completely conclusive, as he had reacted to what had happened very quickly. And I think we have a total team that will assess what had actually happened and the extent of what had happened based on various presentation that is coming out from members of the public, from the APC, from the PDP, from the police. So you need to have more information.
Speaking on travel advisories given by foreign missions on the security situation in the country, the Inspector General of Police says the warnings were not dismissed as mere alarm.
The government has not dismissed what had happened because they have also informed us of what they foresee as threats. And we, on our part, also looked at what they put as threat as something that has been with us, and efforts are being made daily.
The welfare of the police as regards to accommodation and kitting have been covered extensively during this discourse. And it seems some of the issues thrown up may not be readily solved because of the budget envelope given to the force on an annual basis. The funds, according to the Inspector General of Police, are simply inadequate to cover the quantum of expenses that go into running the Nigeria Police Force. From State House Abuja, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
The Independent National Electoral Commission in the Federal Capital Territory has scheduled 2 weeks for the display of the preliminary voters' register to entertain claims and objections ahead of the 2023 polls. The Commission also calls on registrants who successfully completed their registrations for the voters' card to take advantage of the ongoing collection of the available PVCs as notified by text messages. Trust TV's Aisha Salih reports.
With campaigns ongoing, the Independent National Electoral Commission in the FCT, which will be conducting only the presidential and National Assembly elections, also says it will be monitoring campaigns and urged political parties to focus on issue-based campaigns to ensure a smooth process.
No violent use of any physical force during political campaigns. No political campaign to be conducted inside the premises of religious organizations. That includes the mosque, inside the church, and inside the shrine. No political campaign will be based on ethnicity or religious persuasions, and that we should avoid free speech. Hate speech.
On the state of preparedness for the conduct of the 2023 election, the FCT INEC said preliminary voter register is to be released from the 12th through 25th November 2022.
INEC is going to display, the voters register. This is for the purpose of all our citizens who have registered, to partake in this election, to go through in their respective localities and see the registers, so that if they have any claims and objections, they can raise them. We start by 9 a.m. in the morning and close 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it is going to be at the registration areas or what level.
The FCT INEC says introduction of short messaging services for PVC collection is to lessen the burden of voters and to reach every locality to ensure appropriate distributions, as there will be no collections by proxies.
We have devised new means, a departure from the previous election, whereby all those who partook in this election, most of them have been identified and being notified through SMS to come to so and so places and collect their PVCs.
The SMS was sent to those whose cars are available with us now. And by the time you receive the next batch of the PVC, they will also send messages to those new cars that will come later.
Maximum collection of voters' cards and turnout on election day are crucial in determining the democratic outcomes of elections. The Commission hopes the country's democracy does not continue to suffer from the double apathy of voters' card collection and low turnout on election day. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Well, the adage that the woman's place is in the home or kitchen seems to be fading away as girls are gradually getting more involved in male-dominated professions in Nigeria. In this special report, some female apprentices shared their experiences with Nafisa Bello on why they opted to be in a male-dominated field. Take a look.
In Nigeria, the art of tailoring, hairdressing, and catering are among the handworks traditionally associated with the female folks, but the trend seems to be changing. A visit to some mechanic workshops in Benin City, the Edo State capital, showed these girls exhibiting the zeal to try their hands on something different from the aforementioned jobs, leading them to apprenticeship in motor mechanic, a career they say they are sure to excel in.
It was part of our subject when I was in secondary school, mechanic work. So they taught us more. We were allowed to learn different skills of our choices. So I picked auto mechanic work to learn. So with that I was exposed to the work. So
I love this work. I passionately love it. I don't feel intimidated. I don't feel embarrassed. I'm just okay. I'm fine. Even putting on the overall, I'm okay with it. Even if you tell me to wear the overall home, I will gladly do it. Why? Because that's my dream. So I just thought of doing something different aside those other things like hairdressing and tailoring, because that was the most common thing among females and I don't like it. So my grandmom, she thought of something. She now said, what's up if I just go into something like cars, where I use computers to check cars. So that was enough for myself. I don't know more things. I don't know many things. I'm still learning. So that's maybe once I'm truly learning, I'll be able to stand outside because I know that I have something. I can do something. I have something else there.
At one of the workshops, it was observed that most of the apprentices, male and female, are being trained freely. The owner of the workshop, Osaro Ogunwe, explained what it takes to make sure they take the job seriously.
So when you come, if you want to learn as a male or female, when you are learning, process of learning, you don't have to have a girlfriend. So enable you to learn the work properly. So that is how we learn our work.
For a better and developed society and to change the narrative, it is expected that women are allowed to try their hands on any profession of their choice, instead of being stereotyped on particular ones. Nafisa Bello, Trust TV News, Benin.
All right, there you go. If you are still just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust Television. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, the show continues. Stay with us.
All right, welcome back, and thanks for staying with us with us on Daybreak. We'll move on to our first discussion today. The Nigerian economy seems to be synonymous with fuel scarcity. It does not seem to matter which regime is in charge. Every couple of years, or in some cases months, the problem of fuel scarcity rears its ugly head. Now, every regime follows a typical playbook in dealing with the scarcity: sympathize with Nigerians and talk about how they shouldn't be wasting useful hours queuing for fuel, talk about how marketers, smugglers, and various middlemen are sabotaging the economy for their own selfish interests, promise to revamp the refineries, pay off marketers so they can settle their debts, import new products, and flood the market with fuel with the hopes that it makes the scarcity go away. Now, in all this, the question is fuel scarcity the problem, or is it just a symptom of the problem? Now, we have in the studio a public affairs analyst, Majid Dahiru, to help us with some answers. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
On Daybreak.
Thank you for having me today.
All right, so let's begin with the question. So is fuel scarcity the problem? Because a lot of people are complaining, and there doesn't seem to be an end in sight. So is fuel scarcity the problem, or is it a symptom of the problem?
It is a problem, but it's not the main problem. It's a symptom of a deeper problem. And that problem is Nigeria's inability to guarantee energy security for its citizens. So the problem of fuel queues and petroleum scarcity is symptomatic of Nigeria's deep-seated ailment of energy insecurity, an acute one at that. And I'm happy in your intro, you actually described energy security without necessarily using the term. And so that should be the focus of conversations around fuel queues that are perennial in Nigeria and seems to be unending, year in, year out.
Very interesting. Well, just yesterday, I was on the queue, and then you can't even access the fuel at all. Initially, we heard that it was the Kogi floods, and they were unable to move, fuel into, cities. And now I think that is drying out. But it still seemed to linger. What really is the problem?
Well, the latest information we're getting is from the Group Chief Executive Officer of the NNPC Limited, Malam Mele Kiari. Sometime during the week, he actually made some revelations about the fact that the current landing cost of imported PMS has made the approved price of 170 naira a litre unrealistic because of the prevailing pricing condition in the international market of crude oil, and of course Nigeria being an import-dependent country on petroleum needs. He is simply saying that, look, what we have for subsidies, which is already almost tanking our physical condition, is no longer able to sustain the price of PMS at the rate of 170 naira per litre. And some people have said, look, the landing cost is as high as 450 naira at the moment. And so the threshold for subsidy has increased, meaning that we have to spend more money to cover up this additional cost if we must continue to have petrol at 170 naira per litre. So in essence, it is the pricing regime that is causing the disruption in supply. Now, the problem is NNPC did not offer any solution in the immediate. It's like it was a hanging statement. The pricing regime currently in existence at the rate of 170 naira per litre is no longer realistic. We've not seen any further pronouncement on the way out of the current circumstance, even as scarcity worsens. So marketers are telling you that, look, we cannot get this product at a certain price and sell below par because nobody will bear the costs. So we are like in a situation that is hanging between the decision on what next to do and how to get us out of the current situation arising from the unrealistic price, according to the operators of the market, of 170 naira per litre. So in essence, somebody is trying to fly a kite to say, look, we may need to increase the price in order to transfer the burden of this additional cost arising from the prevailing international market oil price on the end users, you and I. I'm sure that conversation is going on, but of course people are aware too, particularly those in government, that any marginal increase in the cost of petrol the reaction from Nigerians might not be very palatable. So it's like a dicey situation for both the government and the people. And this is an election, a year preceding the general elections. And so somehow people don't want to risk the wrath of the people. So it's a mix of politics and economics as we speak. So we don't know which one will actually prevail. Is it politics or the economics of oil pricing that will prevail?
Okay, so, just to add to what you said, Daily Trust carried a story on the 9th of November of the National Operations Controller of the Independent Petroleum Actors Association of Nigeria, saying that the only realistic pump price of petrol is 200 naira. Now, if, this particular increase in fuel, prevails, doesn't it put too much burden on the citizens, the Nigerians themselves, like actually the masses?
No, of course. And let me say this, and it's important to put this in perspective. Petrol, diesel, and other crude oil derivatives, as well as electricity, cumulatively are known as energy products. These are the products that keep your industries running, your homes, your mobility, your everything you think of. These are the commodities or the products that keep you running, that keeps an economy running. And so all over the world, governments are very, very careful in managing this product because they constitute energy, the energy you need to power your homes and drive your industries and also move your logistics. So it's like the most important item on the agenda of any government, energy. And securing energy, it has two components. Energy security has two components. It has to be available and affordable. If it's available and it's not affordable, you cannot say you have energy security. If it's also affordable and not available, you can't also say you have energy security. So both must go hand in hand for you to be able to guarantee that you have energy security for your country. Unfortunately, in the case of Nigeria, it is both unavailable and unavailable. If you consider the condition we live in, consider our minimum wage, consider our earnings as a people, you would agree with me that even the current price is unaffordable, and at the same time, the scarcity also makes it unavailable. So Nigeria is suffering acute energy crisis, acute energy insecurity. So the focus is, how do we guarantee energy security for Nigeria so that we will not have such problems arising in the future? And unfortunately, this is 1999 at least, since we transited from military to civil democratic rule. It's as though we've not been able to find a solution to this problem. So it's been there in varying degrees. Well, some administrations manage it better than the others, but it's just been there. And back to your question, any marginal increase in the price of energy, including PMS, for example, is going to have a destabilizing effect on the economy. In fact, according to the NBS data, one of the major causes of inflation in Nigeria is actually the cost of energy. Because if you look at PMS, for example, PMS is the live wire of SMEs in Nigeria. It is the live wire of our homes because due to the epileptic power supply, we all rely on generating sets that run on PMS to power our homes and run our small and medium scale enterprises. So any marginal cost in the price, any marginal increase in the price of energy, or particularly PMS, a producer of any goods and service will actually have to now put that additional cost on the price of the end product for you, the end consumer, to bear. So it adds to what you call cost push inflation, because the cost of production itself has risen because of the input you need to produce the goods and services that you are actually engaged in as an entrepreneur. So it's not something we need to really overemphasize. It is going to have a destabilizing effect as the past increases have done in the country. In fact, Nigeria went down the ignominious road of high inflation from 9.8% it was in 2015 to double digits, and it has kept increasing up until we're almost crossing the 20% mark because of the first increase in petroleum price in 2016 from 87 naira to 145 naira. It had an instant effect by way of increased inflation, and since then we've not recovered from it. So any marginal increase today will also continue that trajectory. And it is not good for the overall economy. Look at the cost of diesel, for example. You know what diesel is doing to manufacturers today, the high cost of diesel. In fact, high cost of diesel is not only affecting manufacturers, it's actually affecting the retail of petroleum, because most service stations use diesel to power their generating sets in order to operate their filling stations, their fueling stations. Now, the cost of diesel itself is also affecting the cost of production of these goods and services, meaning that apart from the cost of the landing costs and even foreign exchange differentials, the cost of diesel alone, just one item, is capable of sending the price of PMS continuously on the increase if you don't control the price of diesel. So it's like an open-ended situation that leads nowhere. And I've listened to experts, I've listened to those in government, I've listened to those that are trying to come into government. I've not seen any plan, I've not seen any roadmap towards energy security in Nigeria that is realistic. I've not seen any. They are still regurgitating what has been said, like you said in your opening intro, over and over since 1999.
But some have actually talked about removal of fuel subsidy, helping, in the whole crisis.
Sometimes it's very sad that the problem of energy crisis has been reduced to subsidy. You see, I've heard people say subsidy of petroleum is subsidizing consumption, and that is a waste. Nothing can be more fallacious. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Subsidizing PMS, on the contrary, is subsidizing production, because you need PMS to run your businesses. It is part of production. So when the cost of PMS is at a certain level, it makes the output from my production a little bit affordable to Nigerian people. And once you increase the price of PMS, I will increase the cost of my services as an entrepreneur. And so the problem is not subsidy. And I disagree with anybody who says subsidy is the problem. No. The problem is the corruption in the subsidy, one. And secondly, the fact that Nigeria, an oil-producing country like Nigeria, has to depend on importation of petroleum products. That is the major issue. Why are we not able to refine petroleum at home? And what's anybody doing about getting Nigeria to begin to refine its domestic need for petroleum at home as an oil-producing country? So that the question of landing costs, foreign exchange differentials will not even arise in the first place. And let me put this point straight. All over the world, from America to the UK, to France, to Saudi Arabia, to China, energy is subsidized as a matter of national security priority. All over the world, energy enjoys subsidy of government. And the reason is that energy is the foundation of the economy. So government has a strategic goal of keeping energy security in place through availability and affordability. And so whenever there is an imminent increase in price of energy, governments, responsible governments all over the world, put in place measures to lower the cost so that the economy will not tank, as Nigeria's economy is about to happen now, so that inflation will be kept under control, so that the cost of living, because the purpose of government is welfare and security, so that the cost of living of citizens will be kept under control and not be allowed to go beyond their reach and inflict hardship on the people. And I'll give you an example. Recently in the UK, they experienced cost of living crisis arising from high energy costs because of the disruptions of supply chains arising from the Russia-Ukraine war. And because most countries in Europe depend on oil-producing countries like Russia for the sources of energy, UK, of course, with the sanctions and all of the measures put in place to deter Russia from aggression in Ukraine, had an adverse effect because Russia is now weaponizing its own energy, infrastructure to actually press home its own foreign policy agenda. And so UK was actually badly hit. The government of UK today, beginning from Liz Truss, who just left as Prime Minister, had to put in place what was known as energy price cap. And what's energy price cap? Subsidy of electricity bills and cooking gas. Because as they go into the winter, it's expected that there will be an increase, further increase in the price of energy. That will destabilize the entire economy. And so the UK had to roll out a package of over $100 billion to subsidize electricity and cooking gas for the UK citizens, in addition to supporting businesses that are also suffering high cost of operation arising from high energy costs. In the United States of America, the headquarters of capitalism, they have what is called the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. It was created in 1973. Why? Because of disruptions in energy supplies, because of the Arab-Israeli war, following which the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia imposed an embargo on the West. And so it caused a lot of hardship in the US. There were long fuel queues at very exorbitant prices. It was not that the United States Kingdom, the United States government realized that they needed to have some level of government control over energy supply in the country, and they established the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. That reserve has the capacity to hold 750 million liters of crude oil. And so from time to time, whenever there is an increase in the price of international price of crude oil, and which will also translate to increase in price of PMS at home in the US, the United States government releases from government stock to producers to bring down the price of PMS. As the US is going into the winter, and with the expectation that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is going to cut production of crude oil, which might send the price higher than in the current level, the US President Joe Biden, has signed an executive order to release 15 million barrels of crude from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve into the markets to cushion the effect of expected increases in prices. This is what every government does. Saudi Arabia itself, as an oil-producing country, spends billions of dollars to subsidize electricity and PMS for its citizens. It's a responsibility of government. You see, nobody should actually blackmail Nigerians about subsidy. It is the responsibility of government to create wealth, resources enough to cater for our welfare and our security. However, the problem, like I said earlier, is not about subsidy. It is the fact that the Nigerian government has not been able to put in place measures to guarantee energy security in Nigeria. And this brings me back to the economic philosophy that is operational in Nigeria, actually since 1999. And we need to change it as soon as possible. And what is this economic philosophy? We have this neoliberal tendency that says government has no business in business, and have faulted this fallacious economic policy or philosophy since 1999 consistently. Government has business in business, and the only business of government is doing business. And any government that cannot do business has no business being a government. And the most fundamental business that government must undertake is the business of energy security. There's no country in the world whose government is not fully involved in one way or the other in the production of energy resources. There's no country in the world. And so what we have in Nigeria is that this tendency of government abdicating its responsibility in the midst of production, particularly energy, to the so-called private sector. And so the NNPC is a behemoth that is simply big for nothing, relying on JVs with private companies to extract, exploit, and export crude, and is unable to fix its own refining capabilities to guarantee for us our domestic need for refined products.
Exactly.
And that is because government is dilly-dally. Government is not committed to fixing its own processes enough and repositioning it to take up the responsibility, its own responsibility of energy security. And let me emphasize this. There's no private sector initiative that can guarantee energy security except government. Government itself comes in. And so the solution to this problem is for government to carry out fundamental reforms in NNPC and Petroleum Ministry. Enough reform that will see government operations run in line with international best practices and the most sanitized corporate governance code in such a way that can enable it reposition its facilities, refurbish its refineries, build more, and allow government now to go into the real business of energy production. However, I must also mention that this is not the responsibility of federal government alone. It is also sad that Nigeria is endowed with hydrocarbon resources across states of the Niger Delta, for example. And yet, there is no state-owned enterprise across the entire length and breadth of Niger Delta, from rivers to Akwa Ibom, from Delta to Edo, to Ondo, and recently even Kogi. There is no oil-producing state in Nigeria which has been able to put in place one single state-owned refinery since 1999. So we must set an agenda for the incoming administration at all levels that the states that are endowed with hydrocarbon resources must take the lead in driving investments. It could be in partnership with the private sector, there's no doubt about that, but government must be sitting on the driver's seat in providing the infrastructure that will enable the conversion of hydrocarbons to finished products. We cannot be sitting on these huge hydrocarbon reserves and be complaining of fuel queues in Nigeria. It is not normal, and we cannot normalize abnormality. So in essence, all hands, all tiers of government and all the hands must be on deck to fashion out a way out for us to attain energy security. It is not right that Nigeria is the only OPEC country that imports its petroleum needs. It is not right.
Absolutely.
Every other country has measures in place. And like I emphasized earlier, please, government has business doing business. Because its only business is to do business.
Absolutely.
Saudi Aramco is a state-owned enterprise, state-owned, owned by the government of Saudi Arabia. It's a public enterprise. Yet, Saudi has a market capitalization of over $2 trillion.
I think I'm going to hold you there. Let's quickly join our reporter from Lagos, Abdul Latif Ali, for an update on the fuel situation there in Lagos, and then I'll get right back to you. Hello, Abdul Latif. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak.
Yeah, good morning.
So could you give us
Thank you for having me.
what's happening in regards to the fuel situation in Lagos at the moment?
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, and thanks for having me. The situation in Lagos is still, we want to say that it's presently improving. We see that most of the major filling stations are currently dispensing fuel, and it's only very few of them that are not dispensing at the moment. And just a few minutes after I left my house, I passed through 3 different filling stations, 2 belonging to the NMPC and 1 other major marketer. So the 2 of the filling stations are actually dispensing, except the major marketer, which is not dispensing at the moment. So as far as we are concerned in Lagos, the situation seems to be improving, and the motorists, both the private and commercial motorists, are sure of getting fuel at least at some of the filling stations that we have in Lagos. And when you look at it, just few of them that have long queues. Like for instance, day before yesterday, I went into a filling station where I filled my tank, and so on. A lot of motorists are also saying the same thing, that the situation seems to be improving in Lagos.
Reports actually have it that fuel or petrol sells for 200 naira in Lagos and Ogun states. How true is that?
Yes, absolutely. If you go to most of the independent filling station marketers who are not major filling stations, yeah, they sell far above the normal threshold. Some of them 200 naira, some of them 210 naira. But what is very clear is that the major filling stations in Lagos, the one owned by Moman, the major marketer association of Nigeria, and the DAPMAN, which is the Depot and Petroleum Products Marketers Association of Nigeria, they are selling at the normal price. And this was actually emphasized a few days ago when there was a briefing on the fuel situation by DAPMAN, and through its chairman, Mrs. Winifred Apani, who said that you will never see any of the filling stations owned by DAPMAN or MoMA selling at 200 naira or 210 naira, despite also having the same challenges of having to source for forex at the black market and so on. But when you go to the interlands, like for instance, the border communities in between Lagos and Ogun State, in fact, some of the filling stations, 210 naira, 205, and 200 naira, and that is exactly what we're experiencing.
Well, thank you so much, Abdul Latif, for that update from Lagos. We hope to join you for more deliberations in the future.
All right, thank you.
All right, let me come back to you now. You know, the question that everybody is asking is, why can't we get our refineries running? What really is the problem, or are we doing something wrong?
Corruption. We're doing everything wrong. Corruption, inefficiency, and most importantly, an unwillingness to get it to work. Like I said earlier, we've been run with this neoliberal concept that government has no role in the means of production, particularly in energy. So what you say is a half-hearted measure by even the current government in trying to strike a balance between government responsibility towards energy security and allowing private sector to actually take up that responsibility solely. And so you see a situation where they said, okay, we have transformed the NNPC from just a corporation to a limited liability company. in preparation for probably privatization later. And so we are stuck in between, the two divides. And I'm saying, when it comes to energy, particularly for an oil-producing country, the government must be in charge. But this is not by any means suggesting a monopoly by government. No, side-by-side private sector. I say this because energy is a matter of national security. And because of this issue of subsidy you raise, government must, as a matter of necessity, subsidize energy at all times. Or rather, when required. If the prices are low by market forces, then you don't need to subsidize. As was the case during COVID. I mean, when oil production fell globally and crude oil price, the price of crude oil crashed as low as $10 per barrel, that was not for subsidy because the end product was going to be very, 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 very cheap and affordable. But government must always have that infrastructure, maintain that investment infrastructure in this important sector, cutting across all sectors of energy, electricity inclusive, so that where it is required, as part of government responsibility to the citizens, it will come in to make sure that there's availability and there is affordability. As a matter of fact, NNPC has the mandate for energy security. And that is why the GCEO now of NNPC is saying, look, we are subsidizing because of our mandate for energy security. We can't afford to allow the prices to spiral out of control. What we are saying is that subsidy regime itself has some noticeable flaws that has to be corrected by way of tackling the inherent inefficiencies in government, but not the subsidy itself. Again, the focus should change from subsidy on importation to why are we even importing in the first place? Why are we importing? So it is a failure of government that it cannot fix its own refineries since 1999. It is not something that we should glamorize. And let me say this, when you want to privatize a company, you can't privatize a moribund company like the NNPC. There will be no serious investor to come in and buy it. You must run a state-owned enterprise to an appreciable level of efficiency and profitability before you can attract investment by way of privatization. And that was the case of Saudi Aramco that I was talking about. It's a state-owned enterprise, but in 2018 or thereabout, it divested only 1.5%. 1.5% of its shares and quoted it publicly on the domestic exchange. It attracted a market capitalization of $2 trillion within 48 hours. Because people know that this is a profitable entity that one can comfortably invest in. It has a revenue of over $300 billion annually, while we are making losses here. And it is operated by the state. We need to reform government. Okay. For a very long time, we've run away from the responsibility of reforming government, reforming the public sector, without which nothing can work in any country. So the focus should be reforming the public sector enough to take up certain responsibilities that only a government, particularly in a developing country, can undertake, which is energy security.
Okay, now the government actually seems to be, taking some measures to, end the fuel scarcity or make sure that, there's availability of fuel, because in October, the federal government raised the number of trucks coming into Abuja per se, but we didn't see an end to the scarcity. So where is the actual problem? Is it with the marketers or is it with the fueling stations? Because a lot of people seem to think that these fueling stations are hoarding fuel.
They may be hoarding fuel, I don't know, I can't speak for them. But you see, this is the problem with uncertainty in a market that has no guarantees anyway. Now, the government is battling what they call subsidy. So when somebody buys a product and is unaware whether government will continue the subsidy regime even by the next day, he may want to halt to see the new policy come out of government. And so it creates a disruption in the supply of this very important product to Nigerians. But the most important thing is Nigeria used to have a network of pipelines linking refineries to depots and to flow stations across the country. It was put in place as far back in 1978 when our current president was Minister of Petroleum under the administration of General Olusegun Obasanjo. So what happened to those network of pipelines that distributed products across the country, that linked crude oil from Escravos and Warri as far as the Kaduna refinery? What has happened to this? Why did we improve on them since the time it was put in place? Why did we allow them to degenerate? So what are we doing to revamp this massive network of pipelines and improve and expand them? We need to go through the hard way. We need to go back to how petroleum products are trucked all over the country or transported through pipelines mainly. From refineries. You see, we need more refineries.
But there's a current fight against, oil theft right now.
Yes. well, of course, that was affecting our export capabilities. Because of oil theft, we were not able to even meet OPEC quotas. At a time that there was an oil boom, we couldn't meet it. So it was like double jeopardy for Nigeria. We were not able to maximize the advantages, unfortunate advantage that the Russia-Ukraine war threw at us by making more money from our own God-given commodity. And at the same time, because of the increase in prices, that all that should affect us more money, we are not spending even more to subsidize the importation of this same product, simply because we cannot refine this thing at home. And it doesn't take rocket science to refine petroleum at home. It simply takes the seriousness of government. But like I said earlier in my presentation, this will no longer be the responsibility of government alone, federal government alone. State governments, and this is a question we've not had before, a state like Rivers State should be able to have put in place at least one refinery that will earn its money. It's not charity. If you have a refinery today to actually substitute importation of petroleum to the tune of almost 19 billion liters per annum, do you know how much revenue will go to some of those states in addition to what they get from other ventures? So you begin to wonder, how come none of these states thought it wise to float special purpose vehicles to maximize and convert their hydrocarbon potentials into finished products, make money, and help guarantee Nigeria's energy security? It's something we need to have a conversation about. States must begin to set up state-owned enterprises. It's something we can no longer run away from. It is the trend in the world. Nobody should deceive anybody. Countries like Norway, countries like France, countries like Finland have state-owned enterprises in the energy sector. If you look at Russia today, Russia is fighting a war, yet the adverse effect of the disruption its own war is causing is not felt at all, because the government of Russia is in charge of its energy sector through Gazprom. It's a state-owned enterprise. In fact, Ukraine, that is under bombardment, had electricity, and I was expecting electricity until their facilities were targeted by Russian airstrikes recently, because the state, the government of Ukraine, is involved in the means of production of energy. If you look at France wasn't suffering so much from energy crisis as for this war, because it has a state-owned enterprise that's providing power for its citizens at a subsidized rate. And what I'm saying is challenging. Anybody who thinks I'm giving wrong information should please come to this place and challenge the statistics or this information I'm giving out. And this is why UK, which privatized its own energy value chain in the 80s under Thatcher, suffers so much, because private sector cannot guarantee you energy security. They can only make products available to you. They cannot make it affordable for you. Only government can do that. That is why the UK Labour Party today has brought out a new manifesto that says we are going to restart state-owned enterprises in the UK to provide energy security for our citizens. And they are ahead of the Conservatives by 30% at the public opinion polls.
Okay.
So we need to have a rethink of our political economy in Nigeria. It's something we need to rethink. You can no longer excuse state out of means of production. You cannot abdicate that responsibility to anybody. It's nobody's responsibility. That is why diesel was deregulated. It was available all these years. That's the only thing that person can do for you. Availability. Affordability is another ball game. Today, even if you pay all the subsidies, the fact that diesel, the cost of diesel is high, is going to disrupt the supply chains in PMS. Because again, it's not under the control of anybody. It is a private sector driven activity.
Okay, now talking about private sector, the Dangote refinery is set to, commence operations soon. Do you think that the operation of that refinery is going to have an influence on subsidy in some way?
It's ordinarily it should have, because if it can meet up with the domestic consumption need, it means some of the issues of foreign exchange differentials, landing costs, haulage, and all of that might be mitigated a little bit. But this is where it gets tricky. That means we may have to sell crude to Dangote first in naira, not in dollars. And I think it's a good policy to do that. Thankfully, the government of Nigeria has acquired a 20% stake in Dangote refinery, which is very commendable. Meaning it can sit on the board and somewhat convert its own revenue or its own dividends into some form of subsidy where it is required. Subsidy is not something you pay every day. No, definitely not. But where it is necessary. You see, you must have a strategic planning for energy security. That is, there is a threshold you must not allow price of energy to go beyond. So when it's about to go beyond that, certain factors, you must convert government assets to bring it down wherever you can in order to stabilize the economy. So then we ordinarily we just refine petrol and sell to it, it will be available. But affordability is the problem. So to ensure affordability, government may have to consider selling crude to Dangote in Naira and probably have certain arrangements with him on local refining, even if it means selling crude, not just in Naira, but at a discounted rate for the purpose of local consumption. It's something that can be considered. And I can assure you that for any reason, if Dangote is to sell refined petroleum at a price that the government considers too high for citizens, it behoves on government to take up the burden of additional costs by paying Dangote to subsidize us. Subsidy is a permanent feature in energy security. So I don't want us to start having arguments about whether subsidy is good or evil or not. No, it is a permanent feature. The only thing is administer it with efficiency, with transparency, not with corruption. But it's a permanent feature. It must be there. If you need to, you may have to subsidize Dangote products for Nigerians to consume, if you need to. So it's something that we cannot even talk about enough.
All right.
So the solution is government becoming very serious about energy security.
Okay, well, the NNPCL has actually said that Nigeria's fuel consumption will decline when there is no incentive for excess use. Can you tell us your take on the issue of our current consumption level put at 66 million litres per day?
That's another thing that is quite debatable, and that is why you cannot actually track consumption when you are importing. Importation is fluid. And let me tell you something, NNPC is not the only one importing. NNPC is actually coordinating importation by private companies, even though it claims to be the sole importer. The other time that there was contamination in the system, NNPC came out to point fingers at the particular company that were responsible for the importation of such products that were contaminated, meaning that they are only coordinating importation of PMS per se, not that they are the ones actually doing the importation. So what this tells you is that when you are importing products, it is difficult to track in terms of quantitative and qualitative terms, because it's amorphous, it's haphazard. But when you have refineries in Nigeria that are producing, you can track what the crude oil input is and the refined petroleum output is. And you can now appropriately determine the right quantity of consumption per day in that country. At the current rate, it is still too high, because even though you have fuel scarcity, how can you still be claiming that we are consuming 68.8 million liters of petrol every single day, even during scarcity? So you can see part of the inefficiency in the so-called subsidy administration. This is a glaring one. But you cannot completely eliminate this until you begin to refine it. So the focus for NNPC, the lesson you should have learned from all of this crisis, is the need to start refining at home. And all political parties, the APC, the PDP, the Labour, the EDF, all of them, we as Nigerians must set an agenda of energy security for them. I've listened to a number of presidential aspirants focusing only on subsidy, as if that was the only problem. That isn't the only problem. It's not even a problem. It is only the way it is administered that is the problem, which is the corruption issue. So while they are fighting corruption, please, subsidy is something that must be a defining feature in energy security, as is the practice all over the world. So the solution is local refining. You always have corruption when you're importing petrol. It's not something that you can really manage in return, because how do you track? I mean, I have a cargo on sea, something else is written on my bill of lading. How do you really reconcile these things? But if you have a facility that refines petrol, you know the amount of crude you've given to the facility. So you know what you're going to expect by way of output. It is easier to track. And now, that's the only time we can know the exact consumption in Nigeria. This figure is looking unrealistic and a little bit inflated. But again, we cannot speak in finality with that. It is for us to focus on local refining. It's not something we have an option in. We must do it. And I've also heard of the issue of smuggling across the border. That is failure of government. You cannot blame me as a citizen and impose higher cost of petrol on me simply because we are able to police our borders and prevent subsidized products from going out. I should enjoy the privilege of being an oil-producing country. If Nigeria wasn't an oil-producing country, nobody would have having this conversation, because we don't produce oil. So we're not expecting to have energy at certain kind of level. We don't produce it. But a Japanese cannot buy car at the same rate, Toyota car or Honda or any of their products, at the same rate as buying it in Nigeria. It's not possible, because it is produced in this country.
Well, unfortunately, we have to end the discussion here. Time is not on our side, and we have to go. Thank you so much for coming on the program this morning.
All right, so that was Majid Ahiru, a public affairs analyst, in the studio, as a guest in the studio with us to talk about, the lingering fuel scarcity. And with this, we've come to the end of a Daybreak on Trust TV. Thank you so much for tuning in and staying with us till the end of the program. Tomorrow is Daybreak Extra, but on Daybreak, we'll be back again on Monday, same time, same station. I'm Darshan Hussaina Usman. Have a wonderful weekend.
And I'm Zainab Bala. Bye for now.